Jesse is always brought to you by your local Chicagoland Toyota Dealer Association. Toyota, let's go places. Jesse, tell us where Jed is going as far as his bullpen thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to explore every avenue, that's for sure. I asked him right off the bat, is it external? Is it internal? Is it, just your starting staff getting healthy? And he said all of the above. And I get it because with Justin Steele back tonight, Ben Brown gets moved to the bullpen. Craig Counsell said that to me earlier. Ben Brown will be a part of this series in the bullpen. So you add a good arm there. Remember, Wicks is still out there. Kyle Hendricks is still out there. This is quite amazing how deep this starting staff could be. Now, we don't know what Hendricks is going to be, but you get what I mean. They have arms, and they're getting healthier. And whoever doesn't produce in the rotation might get moved to the bullpen here, as Ben Brown is doing. Meanwhile, he's looking externally. I mean, he admitted talking to some of the teams that are out of it. He said he knew the Marlins trade for Luis Arraez to the Padres was coming down the pike because he's been talking to the Marlins. And I know he's checked in with the other teams that are out of it, mostly the White Sox and the Rockies. So he also said, hey, don't think that just because Luis Arraez was traded in early May, there's going to be a flurry of trades. It's more of a one-off. But I don't think he's in any panic mode. Not that I've ever known him to panic. They're playing well. They're getting healthier in the rotation, which, again, is going to help the bullpen. It's really one player out of the pen that's hurt them. Granted, it's the closer, and he certainly thinks that Adbert is going to find it again. Tommy, you asked me Friday, if I thought he could find it again, and I said yes, and Jed is not going to disagree with that, obviously, publicly. They think it's snowballed on him a little bit, but they think they have enough. They'd like Hector Neris not to walk as many guys. But he thinks the glass is half full when it comes to the pen, not necessarily half empty. Now, who knows? Another bad month, that could all change. But, Ben Brown going back there will certainly help.
Okay, so who gets the ball tonight if you're trying to hang on to a one-run lead in the ninth?
Well, let's see if Neris pitched yesterday, right? I got to look at all the usage.
No, he didn't. He didn't pitch yesterday.
He didn't pitch yesterday. So it's definitely Neris. Neris has been getting it now. He's been shaky. I talked to Neris before the game, and I said, look, I know you're confident when you get into trouble. And he kind of cut me off. He goes, I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want that. I don't want the walks. I'm just not completely locked in. But at least he does have the experience to get out of it. So yeah, I wasn't sure of his usage. But, yeah, he'd be the guy in the ninth inning. But like I said, Craig mentioned that Ben Brown would be available. And I have a feeling Ben Brown has convinced them he could be deployed in any situation now. Remember, he's already started. He's already relieved. Now, he hasn't really pitched the ninth, but I think if needed, they would do it. So if Neris had been used 2 days in a row and Leiter had been used, they wouldn't mind going to Brown. I talked to Brown yesterday before the game, and he's just so much more comfortable a month into this thing than he was a few weeks ago. He even mentioned just happy to have a major league salary, which you don't always hear from players. So I think they're happy and sort of satisfied with Brown's progress and would deploy him in any situation. But there's no doubt right now they're counting on Neris to close out games, and it has been shaky even with him.
Jesse, there's a difference between being in panic mode and just seeing what we're all seeing, and Jed understanding that, hey, this isn't good enough, and we can't live with this, and we're giving away too many games too early in the season when our pitching staff is, especially from a starting rotation standpoint, is just too hot right now. So does he see what we're all seeing, and is it bothering him? Is it bugging him?
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt it is. Absolutely. He said, look, I'd love to live in a world, and he mentioned these names where Jonathan Papelbon, his old Red Sox closer, was with the team, or Chapman in his heyday with the Cubs. But he's like, we don't live in that world right now. We either need to trade for one, sign one, or develop one. Now, they haven't had a history of signing them in December. They have traded for them midseason, like Chapman. So, it's a little bit of his own making here. He says all these things they need to do, and they haven't done them, including develop one. They thought maybe they did with Adbert, but I think we'd all agree Adbert didn't have some great resume. He had sort of half a year last year, or 3/4 of a year before he got hurt. So he sees it. But I think the first option is what I said earlier. As they get healthy in the rotation, I mean, who knows? Maybe Wisniewski is next to go in the bullpen if Wicks comes back and they feel like Wicks should be starting. Or maybe it's Wicks that goes to the bullpen. These are good arms, Ben Brown, Wicks, Wisniewski, that could help their bullpen. So first up is, assuming this health trend continues in the rotation, is trying some of these guys in the bullpen. But there's always an injury around the corner, and you'll feel, like you're short again in a week. Who knows? But for now, let's see what Ben Brown does. Then let's see what Wicks does in whatever role he's in. And then, cross your fingers, Kyle Hendricks is going to make a AAA start tomorrow. They haven't given up on him. But I asked Jed, like, what are the decisions? He's like, we're just going to deal with them as they happen. Like, when Hendricks has to come off the IL, we'll make that decision. When Wicks comes off the IL, we'll make that decision. Who goes to the rotation, who goes to the pen, and who goes back to the minors or gets released. Like, it's great problems to have if you have everybody healthy, and they're trending in that direction.
All right, Jesse, hang in there, because I want to ask you if there's a greater problem and a blind spot for Jed, and this goes back to Theo on the closer issue, something that you were just alluding to. I'd rant like a week or two ago about this, and pick your brain about it. And then I want to get the injury situation with Seiya Bellinger. I know they addressed that too, and Jed and Council addressed it. And we'll talk about the series here coming up. More with Jesse Rogers from Wrigley Field coming up next. We were talking about closers and how he would like to have a guy like a lockdown closer. I brought this up to Waddle about a week or two ago, and to Meller and to Tyler. And I know it's tough to find a closer, but still, Jed and Theo, going back to Theo, have been here for well over a decade, if you go back to 2011, Jesse. And just like they've had issues developing starting pitching, and now they're getting a grasp of that. They're getting more success with that. But think about their closer situation. And as you've mentioned, they've sort of taken it year by year, and it's hurt them. So when their window opened, they had to go out and they had to pay with prospects to go out and get Chapman. And they didn't think that they should pay for Chapman with a free agent contract after trading prospects for him, so they let him go. So instead, they traded Soler for Wade Davis. And again, it was like a one-year deal. Then you had to panic and go out and sign Craig Kimbrell. And then you had to go out and you had to sign Brandon Morrow, and he was a bust. So you've never really gone out and signed a good closer long term, nor have you developed a young pitcher to inherit that role. They're always chasing the closer role. And this has not been like a 3 or 4 year thing. In my opinion, this is really a blind spot for this front office. They're always chasing a closer. Why is that?
Because they don't believe in spending so much money on a volatile situation unless it's the best in the league. And I mean, you answered your own question in some ways. Wade Davis didn't turn out to be the long-term answer. What if they had signed him to big money? Brandon Morrow didn't turn out to be the answer, and they did sign him for a few bucks, and it was a waste of money. So I think they just don't believe in using their funds for that position, because half the time maybe it works, half the time it doesn't. They're always hoping to develop, but I agree with you. That's been the problem, and it kind of extends to how they've developed pitchers under the last decade and stuff. Until recently, it just hasn't worked. I mean, Ben Brown continues to show the signs of it because he's a two-pitch pitcher. Maybe he's the guy. He was asked, Jed, is your future closer on this roster? And I could have predicted Jed's answer. He's like, I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. What I do know is they'll have the funds and the assets to make another trade in July. It's just not how you want to go about your business. I don't disagree with you. But it is kind of like, okay, they've tried a few guys and it hasn't worked. So even Kimbrell didn't really work for a while there, and then he did. So it's such a volatile position, they don't want to use their funds on it. That's the answer.
You like Wade Davis was, remember, running on fumes when they ended up trading for him. He was at the end of his career. That's why, like, he didn't end up working out long term. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of these signings were flawed moves. Like, Brandon Morrow was a guy, I think he pitched in every game of their World Series run.
Right, and then they signed him.
Yeah, they abused him. You know what I mean? Yeah. And sure enough, he had arm injuries.
He was damaged.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong. You're right. So the question, when you have Jed on next, or when I get him alone, is really this: why haven't you spent for one of the best in the league? Like, no one's crying about spending on Josh Hader, right? Even though he's off to a little bit of a rough start. But it's one thing to say it's volatile, but it's not volatile when you go out and get the best in the game. So his answer, I think, today was kind of like, well, they're not always available. But sometimes they are. Josh Hader was available this offseason. So I think well, the answer is in all of this that we're saying they don't want to spend big money on one, so they'll spend some, but when you do that, you're not getting the best, and then it becomes volatile, and then you could say, see, why should we spend on it when it doesn't work? So it's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy there. The answer would be developed from within, but that's not always easy as well because the ninth inning is a different animal, as evidenced by what Adbert Alzolay has been doing.
Away from the bullpen, Jess, what can you tell us about the status of Seiya and Bellinger?
Yeah, all good news. Trending in the right direction. Suzuki's going to go out on a rehab assignment later in the week. Bellinger will just get activated later in the week as well. I mean, it could be as soon as tomorrow for Bellinger. They both hit, ran the bases, played defense today. So it's just a matter of days unless there's a setback. Bellinger won't go out on a rehab because he hasn't missed as much time, but Suzuki will. So I think by the end of the week, at the latest, you'll see both of them in the lineup. I mean, just cross your fingers. They'll be almost as healthy as they've been since March, really, if nothing else happens. And wow, I mean, the way this starting staff is pitching and the way guys like Morel and Pete Crow Armstrong, some of the young guys are taking steps, this team could be ready for a run here. They're not going to pitch like this, forever. But let's at least say, hey, this is unbelievable. This is like 2016-ish, the way their starting pitcher has gone on a run here. So you got to give them credit for that. And as they get healthy, I don't know about you guys. I think this team's going to win the division. I thought that in March. I think that even more now because they're getting so much production from young guys, even in the minor leagues to start the season.
Did I miss it, or was there not an update on Wicks given today?
No, there really wasn't, but nothing serious. I think they're just, buying some time. He'll go down to the minors as well at some point. His was never too serious. I mean, Justin Steele had a forearm last year, came back, was fine. So sometimes you think the worst, but I've talked to Wicks almost every day. He says he's feeling good. So he'll go. I just don't know when, but he'll go for a minor league rehab start. Look, they need to buy some time. They're going to have too many starters soon, which is never a bad thing. It's never a bad
Careful
thing.
with that thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So they're going to buy some time with Hendricks and Wicks and then figure it out. Wisniewski will get another start this Wednesday. He's been lights out. But, boy, to watch the starting staff not give up a run all weekend, even though they only won 2 of 3, but that's pretty impressive. They've given up 2 over the last 30 innings. I mean, it's just been a great, great run.
With that said, Jess, which of the 3, and let's just go 2, between Taillon and Shota, which is more likely to maintain a high level? Maybe not the dominance, but a high level for an extended period of time.
Okay, so I actually think the answer is Taillon. The way he's pumping first pitch strikes, the way he's filling up the strike zone, he's got experience. If I'm not mistaken, Shota faced the Padres in San Diego. I'm almost sure, right? So this will be his first time facing a team for the second time. I'm very interested. The weather is going to be nicer with hitting conditions. And now let's see what the Padres do against him the second time. Look, what he's done has been amazing. I do think he's going to come back down to earth a little bit. I mean, Counsell was asked yesterday if he's surprised by what's gone on with his 3 starters that have sub-2 ERAs. He's like, well, he basically said, what do you think? If Maddox, Glavine, and Smoltz all had sub-2 ERAs, we'd be surprised. I mean, it's unseen what they're doing right now. So Imanaga with a .70, Tommy, it's going to go up. It's going to go up. But I do think actually Taillon, because of his experience and the way he's pitching right now, is a little bit more sustainable. There's no way Imanaga can keep this up. If he does, he'll run away with the Cy Young.
We have like 30 seconds. Does Steele have a pitch limit tonight?
He does, and this is where Ben Brown could come in relief and go the long route. I don't know how many, but I don't think it's going to be more than like 70 for Steele. So think about Ben Brown maybe coming in later. But one way or another, Brown's going to pitch in relief in this series. And my final thought is Dylan Cease is coming to talk to the media. He might join you tomorrow. He should join you tomorrow. But I don't think he's going to pull a Keenan Middleton and rip the White Sox or anything. I think he's going to say they gave me a good opportunity to be a major leaguer, and that's going to be it.
All right, good stuff, Jesse.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Jess.
Okay, boys. Take care.
There you go. Really good.
Nice to have interesting early May baseball.